All right, good day, everybody. My name is Steve Prziborowski. Welcome to episode number 3 of Reach for the Firefighter Badge. This episode is going to cover 4 reasons not to become a firefighter. So without further ado, let's get started. 2 of my websites, I just want to pull a little plug there, have a lot of free stuff on there, whether you're wanting to become a firefighter as an entry-level firefighter. My ChabotFire.com website, the website I run for Chabot College's fire technology program, has a free stuff link, as does my personal website, code3firetraining.com, with a lot of promotional preparation, leadership, officer development information. Like I said, go to each website, lots of free stuff. And then obviously my contact information is on there as well too. So a lot of information to keep you busy for hours. But let's get on to the main focus of episode 3. Like with all these other webinars that I'm doing, they're based on 2 of the books that I've had published. Number 1 being the Future Firefighters Preparation Guide, and then number 2, Reach for the Firefighter Badge, both distinct separate books that complement each other, and both are available on either of my websites mentioned previously, ChabotFire.com or code3firetraining.com. So let's talk about right now 4 reasons not to become a firefighter. This is based on an article I was asked to write for firerescue1.com. If you haven't gone to firerescue1.com, it's an awesome website with tons of resources, a lot of information, free information to keep you busy for hours. So I encourage you to go check that out. And this article is actually based on, like I said, the article that I was fortunate to write for them, and it was actually the number 2 most read article. The previous episode, episode 2, for Reach for the Firefighter Badge, we talked about 10 must-do things to become a firefighter, and that was the number 1 most read article of all time. So I'm very fortunate to have the top 2 articles that have been the most read on firerescue1.com. So as we move forward here, why not to become a firefighter? Now, please take this as it is. Some of this information may be appropriate for career firefighters. Some of you may want to be volunteer firefighters. Some of you may want to work for other types of fire departments, maybe in a part-time capacity or something else. The information that I'm sharing here is obviously just my personal opinion. When this article was first posted on their website, it was just sort of interesting looking at some of the comments. And I appreciate people taking the time to comment, whether it's positive or negative, because it actually shows that they took the time to read at least one word, I guess, because sometimes people, I think, took things out of context. But hey, it's my opinion, and take it or leave it. And I mean that in a sincere way. But 4 reasons not to become a firefighter. Number 1, if you're only in it for the money, you're probably in it for the wrong reasons. Now, that's if you want to be a career firefighter. Obviously, if you want to be a volunteer firefighter, which most of the United States is protected by volunteer firefighters, then that's not the issue at all. So don't even worry about that. So don't get butthurt about, well, I want to be a volunteer. Cool, great. Now, for career, don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with being a career firefighter, but here's something to think about. Depending on the part of the country that you want to work in, salaries, benefits can drastically vary from state to state, region to region, area to area, and so forth. Don't get me wrong, you gotta get involved in a career that pays you, obviously, and provides you benefits to obviously care for yourself, care for your family, provide for yourself, provide for your family. I get it, but my point is, take that away. We all got to make money. I get that. If you're doing it only for the money, you're probably not going to be happy. And I say that because let's say you take a job with a certain fire department because you really like the salary they're offering right now. Let's say, wow, they're the highest paid fire department in the area or in the state or in the nation. That's that snapshot in time. Realize that salaries, for the most part, are governed or, I guess, provided per the local union or association agreement. Most career firefighters are covered by union locals, mostly IAFF, International Association of Firefighter union locals, and through collective bargaining processes in most areas, they negotiate a contract that provides the wages and benefits for you, typically for 2 years, 3 years, maybe 4 years. So let's say the union negotiated a contract for the current 4-year period starting today and for the next 4 years, and it provides for, say, a 5% raise this year, a 4% the next year, 3% the third year, and then maybe 3% the next year after that. So 5, 4, 3, and 3, 9, 12, 15% over 4 years. That's awesome. So yeah, that department may be the highest paid department at that point in time, but what happens 4 years from now when they renegotiate the next contract? Economic times may be great right now. Well, I think they sort of were pretty good up till about March of 2020, this year that I'm talking to you in. But then, of course, the coronavirus pandemic hit us, and that's just really throwing our entire economy up in the air. And they're already saying that this is going to be probably worse than the Great Depression of 1929, even worse than the economic downturn that we had back 2008, 2009, 2010, and so forth. This is even worse than that. So given that, obviously, city finances, county finances, fire department finances are going to be more challenged. So, when it comes to negotiating contracts, who knows what's going to happen. So my point is, just because the fire department today is maybe the highest paid department in the area, it doesn't mean that they're going to stay that way, because based on their next contract that they negotiate, it could be better, could be the same, it could be worse. Maybe a neighboring department actually gets a better salary for whatever reason. So again, I understand you got to pay the bills, you got to support your family, but please don't be in it just for the money, because you're probably going to be disappointed. Second reason not to become a firefighter, for the benefits. Again, besides money, it's also nice to have benefits, primarily healthcare benefits, and possibly even pension benefits. Now, not every fire department is providing pension or retirement benefits in the form of a pension in today's world like they used to, because of a lot of reasons. Number one being the cost of them. But obviously, most departments are providing some form of healthcare benefits for you and or your family. So don't get me wrong, it's nice to have benefits, because medical care is not cheap. It's expensive. And especially, God forbid, if you or your family members have any serious medical problems, it adds up quickly. So knock on wood, I haven't had any of those issues, or my immediate family hasn't, but I know you got to have good benefits. But again, benefits can change just like salaries. So for the most part, most firefighters, as civil servants, firefighters, police officers, city workers, county workers, state workers, and so forth, usually have decent medical benefits, sometimes better than private industry. So it's great when they're there, and it's great when you have them, but as time goes by, when the economy takes a dip, the benefits may not be the same as what they were when you first got on. You may have to pay more for benefits out of your salary just to maintain those benefits. So there's a lot of things, and I know some of you may go, you know what, I don't care about the money, I just want to be a firefighter, I don't care about the benefits, I don't have a family just yet. I totally get it. I was the same way when I was in my 20s starting out. The key for you is you got to understand the finances, you got to understand the benefits. You may not care, they may not matter in your 20s, but your 30s, your 40s, your 50s, especially as you get older, they matter, especially when now you have a family at some point, and you get older. Medical care doesn't get any cheaper, and unfortunately our bodies, don't tend to get better with age as much as I'd like to think they do over time. So benefits are good if you can have good solid benefits, but again, please, you're going to be disappointed if you think it's just for the salary or benefits. Some have great benefit packages and salaries, some don't. Okay, next reason. If you're only becoming a firefighter for the working conditions, and I say working conditions, fighting fire, saving lives is one of the things that a lot of people get attracted to the fire service. That's one of the things that attracted me, besides riding Big Red, the fire engine. That was cool when I saw the firefighters driving down the street, especially the tiller truck, the tiller operator in the back. That looked pretty cool. Well, the working conditions, think about it. When someone calls 911, they're having the worst day in their life, typically, most people. Now, many 911 calls we get to, we sort of scratch our head and we're like, seriously, you called us for this? This is not an emergency. You got a cut finger, maybe back pain. I don't know. But you know what? It's their worst day. And we're not there to discount the customer. We're there to assist them as best as possible, because that's what we're getting paid for. Or if we're a volunteer, that's what we're fortunate to be there as well for, just like we are if we're getting paid for it. But if you're doing it for the working conditions, you got to do your homework. Think about it. Someone's calling 911, their house is on fire. Most normal people are running out of the structure. And guess who they're calling to come in there? Us. We're the ones that are putting on our full PPE, our SCBAs, and we're going on in there to hopefully solve the problem, put the fire out, make a rescue if necessary. Well, even with the best PPE, the best training and everything else that we have, I'd like to think it's the best training in PPE, the working conditions are still just very hazardous. I mean, firefighters by nature, the statistics show that we have a higher chance of getting certain types of cancer just because of what we do and what we're exposed to. Even with wearing our full gear, even with SCBAs, we still have a chance that things can permeate and get into us. So you're wanting to work in a career, again, whether you're paid or volunteer, doesn't matter, that's going to potentially probably expose you to cancer more likely than some other jobs would. Plus, not to mention that it's going to expose you to other injuries, just from the fact that, hey, every time we get in and out of a fire engine, that's wear and tear in our body, especially after midnight when you're going from a dead sleep, all of a sudden bell goes off and you're jumping up and putting your gear on and getting in the rig and hauling butt to the call. That's a lot of stress on your heart. I mean, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying it's not fun, but it's a lot of stress on your body. Again, maybe in your 20s, your 30s, and then as we get older, like here I am in my early 50s, you got to watch yourself. Statistics don't lie. But again, I'm not saying I would do anything differently. I would do the same thing over again that I did 30 years ago, give or take, when I first started out to become a firefighter. And I'm still fortunate to be in the fire service. But again, you got to go in eyes wide open. And another reason not to become a firefighter is to fight fire and save lives. One of the things that attracted me to the fire service, like it does many people, is whether you're watching TV or you hear about it, you see it, fighting fires, saving lives. That's awesome. That's cool. That's bitching. Well, look at the statistics. In the episode 1, episode 2 of Reach for the Firefighter Badge, I touched on that. The average firefighter does not fight fire every day. Heck, the average firefighter may see fire a couple times a year, depending on where they work. The average firefighter runs mostly EMS calls. That's not bad. It's what we're being asked to do. The average firefighter rarely ever grabs someone from the clutches of death. I mean, most of the time, when those rare fires occur, when I say rare fires, I was just looking at our run statistics for our department, less than 4% of our calls are fires. Less than 4% are fires. I think it's about 1%, give or take, that's actual fires, meaning someone calls it there's a fire is 4% or less. But when we arrive and actually determine, the fire's out, or no, it's not a fire, it's just a smoke scare or smell of smoke or whatever else out there, 1% actual fires. So for those actual fires we get to, and expecting to save a life is very slim, because most of the time you find out as a firefighter, by the time we get there, most of the people, if they're able, are already out of the structure. Because if you think about it, right now, if you're sitting in a whatever building, and I know it's probably odd right now if you're watching this because of the shelter in place that's still in effect most of the country, where you can't necessarily go into every building. But think about before coronavirus pandemics stuff hit us. You're in a 7-Eleven, you're in a supermarket, you're in a restaurant, and all of a sudden fire happens, or let's not say the fire alarm goes off, because the fire alarm, most people tend to just sort of forget about that and say, no big deal. But let's say there's actual fire, smoke, everything else, in addition to the fire alarm going off. Most people are going to get their butts out of the building in a self-preservation mode. That's a good thing. Very few are still going to be in there unless for some reason they're trapped beyond their abilities of getting out. So again, the average firefighter, when they do have that actual firefighter, and by the time they get to the scene, most people are out of the building. Very rarely do we get a chance to actually rescue people physically. And on occasion, sometimes those people that can't get out of the building, they typically die in the fire. And you may go, how do they die in the fire? Well, when you start your researching of the fire service and you realize how fast fire grows, you're going to hear a lot of statistics when you take a fire behavior class, which I encourage everyone to do. Fire doubles in size like every 30 seconds. The term flashover, which means everything in a room, people, contents, are on fire. Flashover happens very quickly. And you could have, in theory, a firehouse across the street from a building, let's say an apartment complex. So you could have a firehouse right across the street from an apartment complex. Assuming someone calls 911 right when they smell smoke or see the fire, which doesn't always happen because usually there's a delay, but let's say someone immediately calls 911, they can't put the fire out, say in a bedroom of an apartment. Even if they call 911 right then and there, by the time that 911 call gets routed to the dispatch center, hopefully the dispatch center is not on hold because of multiple other calls going on. But even by the time the dispatcher takes that call, types in the address from that frantic individual that's probably having the worst day of their life because they're seeing a fire in their own building typically, or maybe something that's really truly affecting them, even if they're just a passerby, by the time that dispatcher gets that information, gets the correct address, sends that tone, dispatch tone, to that firehouse across the street, that could be a minute, maybe 2 minutes, give or take. And then by the time the firefighters get the call, and by the time they put their full PPE on before they jump in the rigs to go 50 feet, 100 feet across the street, well, we could already be at 3-4 minutes, give or take, especially if it's in the middle of the night when you have to wake the firefighters up, because firefighters don't stay up 24 hours waiting for the bell to go off. So it may add a little bit more time at nighttime. So even if it's during the daytime, it still could take a couple of minutes for that crew just to pull up. And then from there, they've got to pull a hose line. Even if they're just using tank water, by the time they get that line charged, there's like another minute and a half to get the line charged, the hose line charged, and then make entry to find where the fire's at. From a fire across the street from a firehouse, it could be anywhere from 3 to 6 minutes, give or take. I'm not a mathematician, but give or take 3 to 6 minutes to get water in that fire. And you may think, hey, that's plenty of time. Well, when you start understanding fire behavior, especially in a small compartment space, like say a bedroom, that's not enough time. Someone could die in that 3 to 6 minutes. You take an EMT class or even a basic CPR class, you learn that the brain starts dying from lack of oxygen in 4 minutes. Starts dying, and everybody's different. Everybody handles things differently. And then from 4 to 8 minutes, death can occur from someone not getting oxygen. So if that person can't get out on their own because of whatever reason, the odds of even the firehouse across the street saving them are even very slim. And I'm not disrespecting anybody, but those things have happened, unfortunately. And you may think, well, why don't you just go run across the street and knock on the door of the firehouse? That'll be quicker. Maybe, but maybe not. So that's the challenge that we have, is that we don't get to always save lives. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It sucks. I wish we could save more lives. I mean, we do a lot of indirect saving of lives, I hope to think, and I believe, with our fire prevention, our public education, our training, other interactions that we have with the public, fire codes. But again, we can't save every life out there, even though we try. So again, if you're doing it for the schedule, you're the benefits, the working conditions to fight fire and save lives, you may be disappointed only because the average firefighter doesn't always get to do those things on a regular basis. They may be a small portion of your whole career. So know what you're getting into is all I'm trying to get to. And then number 3, let me just touch on that. I hear a lot of people want to become firefighters because, hey, it's 10 days a month. I get to work a 24-hour shift, which is awesome. I got 20 days off a month. It's perfect. It's not an 8-hour job in a cubicle. I get it. Well, 24-hour shift is awesome, but it also has its drawbacks, sleep deprivation issues. Some departments have gone to the 48-96 schedule. So instead of working 24 on, 48 off, or some variation of that, some departments work 48 on, 2 back-to-back days with 4 days off, which is an awesome schedule. But again, it's time away from your family. There's a lot of other challenges that go along too, like I mentioned, sleep deprivation. And if you're a very busy firefighter in a busy department, 48 hours, you're going to get your butt kicked, and it takes its toll. I mean, I'm not saying it's bad. It's not, I mean, it's definitely fun, but just something to think about going into. And just because the schedule is, say, 48-96, very enticing today, it doesn't mean it can't change. Can't change for the better or for the worse. When I got hired 20 whatever plus 25 years ago in my department, we had a different schedule. It was a 3-4 Kelly schedule where you worked a day, day off, worked a day, day off, worked a day, 4 days off. That was a great schedule. I mean, at least I think it was. And then we switched recently to the 48-96. Again, great schedule. But schedules can change, money can change, benefits can change, sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse. And it all depends on the contract negotiations, collective bargaining, and obviously whatever way the wind is blowing based on the majority of the population that's pushing that change sometimes. So do things for the right reason. So in closing, if you're wanting to become a firefighter for reasons other than those, then be ready to share that answer with the oral board. What that means is, when you go into a firefighter hiring process for a career or volunteer or whatever type of department you're applying for, you're probably going to have to pass an oral interview. An oral interview panel with usually 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe oral board members that are the raters, that are asking you a series of questions. Hey, why do you want to be a firefighter? How have you prepared? What's your strengths? What's your weaknesses? We'll talk more about that in future episodes. They may ask you, why do you want to be a fight fire? Why do you want to be a firefighter? If you tell that oral board that you want to be a firefighter for the wages, the benefits, the working conditions, that sounds very self-serving. I'm not saying you shouldn't do it for those reasons, but when you share those reasons, it can come across very self-serving. If you share with the oral board that you want to do it to fight fire and save lives, kick ass, take names, wet stuff on the red stuff. Again, most firefighters can appreciate that because that's probably why they got on the job in the first place. However, for an oral board that's looking to make a commitment to you and to them for the next 20, 30, 40 years, how about some better oral interview answers if you want to become a firefighter? And I'm not saying serve your community, give back, be a civil servant, because if you watched episode 1, you'll understand where I'm coming from when I'm saying you don't want to say those things in the oral interview. They're good things to say, but they're average answers. You want to have good, unique answers. So your answers for that oral board better be answers of why you want to become a firefighter that are hopefully good from the heart reasons, that are not going to disappoint you. Because I'll end with this. One of our firefighters got hired and he was on the job for a couple of years and he's like, man, Chief, we don't fight that much fire. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, if you did your homework, if you went to the website, the statistics are on the website. He goes, I didn't really do my homework. He goes, I thought we fought more fire. He goes, I've seen, like one fire every couple of months, it's not, or less. I go, yeah, dude. I go, it's still the greatest job in the world if you make it that way. But he was very disappointed because he wasn't seeing fire on a regular basis. And he goes, I'm also not saving any lives here. And I try to explain, you are, through your, public education, all the other stuff that we do, that we interact with the communities for. But he's like, no, man, he goes, the job isn't as exciting as I thought it would be. Well, then why did you get into it? You should, so my point there is, again, volunteering may be slightly different because obviously you probably want to serve your community, which is an awesome thing. But if you're getting into it for a career, this job is changing, ever so changing, and it has to change. It will change. And what we're doing today may not be the same as what it is 10, 20, 30 years from now. So I think do your homework, do your research, know what you're getting into. Most importantly, though, be adaptable and be flexible. So lastly, again, thank you for the gift of your time. Hopefully you got some nuggets out of this episode about 4 reasons not to become a firefighter. Again, they're just my opinions. I encourage you to go to the article on firerescue1.com to read a little bit more in depth about those items. Here's obviously my contact information, social media information. Please feel free to connect with me. And you know what? Hopefully at some point our paths will cross. Please don't hesitate to reach out if I can ever be of assistance to you in your pursuit of the badge. All right, good luck, take care, be safe, be well. So until next time, we'll see you at episode 4 in the future. All right, take care, everybody.